Okay, let's get into the theory. Why has Kaiba'S deck changed so much? And that's the video. So I'm going to explain my theory as to why Kaiba'S deck has changed so much from kind of when you watch the anime of DM to these Synchro dragons and like Maiden with Eyes of Blue and Eyes of Blue kind of cards. I'm going to explain there actually is, in theory, I'm going to make this kind of a canon explanation, because I think it kind of is implied really, but never said. So yeah, so if you look at the likes of Yugi and like the support that his cards have got over the years, nothing has really changed. Look at Gold Sarcophagus. That's actual Yugi's cards that he has used over time, and it's nothing has really changed. It's not a big you're not surprised why there's a Dark Magician in the Gold Sarcophagus. Do you get what I mean? And even at Thames cards, or even some of the other stuff like Gaia has its own deck, Buster Blader has its own deck, and nothing's really too far fetched from what Yugi used. The Magna Warriors, everything is not too far gone or too far dissimilar from what he actually used. So it's not a big leap, and nobody's like, why is he using why is Yugi only using machines now in all his future? Because it's not happening. Do you know what I mean? So it's fine. But Kaiba has completely gone left field. Now I think is Lord of D a spellcaster? If so, he has used Lord of D, which is a spellcaster, which is fine. But his whole deck has changed. He went from using Feral Imp and Sagi the Dark Clown. He uses Pandemic Dragon, Spear Dragon. Yeah, he uses like Vorse Raider. He uses Lejin, the Mystical Genie. There's loads of cards he uses, but he never once uses a Maiden or anything like that. So in this video, I'm going to explain why his cards have changed, and not the canon, but my theory as to why he has changed his cards. Okay, so in the movie Dark Side Dimensions, for anyone who hasn't seen it, or a spoiler alert, it's pretty old, so there shouldn't be much spoilers if you have seen it. Kaiba is hell-bent on finding the Millennium Puzzle. He's hell-bent on finding the Millennium Puzzle, and he wants to fight Atem. He's not happy that he is not the #1 duelist, and Yugi's still the #1 duelist. But for some reason, he's not really bothered with Yugi, and Yugi doesn't seem to be too bothered with dueling either. He's not really like, oh, I need to defend my honor or anything. Yugi's not that type of guy. He doesn't care. He's #1. He's beat Kaiba multiple times, and he's just not arsed. He doesn't give a shit. So, but Kaiba's hell-bent on finding the puzzle. He's like, oh, it's always been Atem that's beaten me, not Yugi, so I want to fight Atem. And even during the battle with Agami, he's like saying to Yugi, you need to summon Atem, and Yugi's like, Atem's not there, it's finished, it's over. And only when Kaiba actually passes out cold does Atem rear his head and beats Agami with the power of Pharaoh and cheating. Yeah, but he beats Agami, and the world is saved, or whatever. So it is actually shown at the very end of the movie that Kaiba has amassed all the pieces of the puzzle, and he uses his VR. He's up in the moon or something. He's up in the big huge sky satellite tower thing. Yeah, he looks absolutely badass. He's got this mad kind of armor on him, and he's essentially made a VR world up in space. But he uses it. I think the whole tower is just to power this this Pharaoh's puzzle or whatever. But he uses this augmented reality, science, and magic to basically go back in time and fight Atem. And Atem is there, and it's like they greet each other as old friends. You know that kind of way. They see each other and it's like, yeah, there's gonna be some dueling here. Atem is like had peace, or he's at peace. He's at rest or whatever. But he knows like Kaiba's not finished with him. So I think the Pharaoh or Atem becomes a spiritual guide for Seto. Yeah, let's be honest. Seto is a pretty aggressive dude, and he needed some spiritual enlightenment, to be fair. So he's had this like chip on his shoulder for the longest time, and all he's wanted to do is just defeat Atem and know that he's the best. You know, or he can't kind of move on with his life. He has all these brains and intelligence, and he's amassed all this company and wealth and everything, and he just can't seem to get by the fact that he's not the best duelist out there. And he's just like, the only greatest duelist out there is somebody who's long dead, and I just can't beat him. So he needed to build this, and he builds this, goes back in time, and he sees Atem, and you can just see him. He's kitted out in the most coolest cyberpunk-esque armor that he's got on. And Atem is just there in his Pharaoh gear, just smiling at him, being like, hey, I knew you were going to come at some point. And they meet up in the duel, and then it kind of cuts off, and you never get to see the duel. But I read this article, I'm not sure, it kind of when it came out in Japan, somebody explained that they actually had wrote in the story for the duel to happen as well. Which, look, I'm not sure if it even happened. It could have been just a theory as well, or a fan-made article or whatever. But yeah, it would absolutely make sense that he just could duel him whenever he wanted. So he just stayed up there for a long time, and he dueled Atem, and maybe Atem talked to him and kind of worked out some of his problems, some of his issues, and he just became chill. And then eventually, like, maybe told him about his priest Seto, who obviously Kaiba is like a reincarnation of Seto, the priest in Atem's time, who actually was there when the maiden with eyes of blue, I know that's not her name, she actually has a name in old Egypt. She has a name, and she kind of dies and becomes the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Seto ends up having this spiritual bond or symbiotic bond with Blue Eyes, and that's why the reincarnated Seto has the same bond with Blue Eyes. But yeah, like we said, he's never used any card that had like a maiden or whatever. So this would make sense for his cards and all to change after dealing with Atem in the future. Well, in the past, in the future. That is why I think that Kaiba's deck and cards have changed in current times now. With all the new Maiden with Eyes of Blue and Mausoleum of Eyes of Blue and all the new cards that are coming out, which are really, really cool. I can't explain the Xyz Blue Eyes, which is like indigo eyes or something. I can't explain that because apparently Zexel is not connected to the timeline. But if you check out my other video that connects all of the timelines, then it would make sense. But yeah, even in GX when we see Seto, he's much calmer. Like he puts whole trust. He's in an episode in GX where he's fighting Chaz Princeton's or Manjome's brother Slade, and I can't remember the other guy's name. They're in there and they're saying he wants his company and he blah blah blah, and he's like, well, if you can be one of my students, which is Chaz, their brother, you can take my company and take Duel Academy or whatever. And he's just chilling. He's like, yeah, I have full trust or whatever. And the old Kaiba wouldn't have done that. The old Kaiba would have just been like, get out of my face. Like, I'll duel you right now and I'll absolutely make bits you, and there's nothing you can do about it, you know? But this Kaiba, even though this probably isn't the same Kaiba, maybe he got enlightenment many more years later, it just seems like he is a lot calmer than previous, you know? Yeah, so that is the video, guys. Please let me know what you think, if you have an actual reason for this other than just for Konami to make money. But yeah, thanks for the video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and good luck.